makes a lawyer and a financial advisor walk into a bar?
Oh, then what happens, Dave?
Well, especially the lawyer is complaining about increased costs in his business.
The lawyer wouldn't complain. The lawyer would just charge it onto his client. That'd be no problem at all.
Oh, that'd be right. Yeah, just push it on and just never worry about it. The higher it is, the better it is.
Increased costs, that's a great topic. I've certainly, from my clients, I hear about increased costs of steel, increased costs of timber, increased labour costs. Labour costs are sort of affecting everyone. Increase in fuel, increase in energy. They're all costs that affect businesses, some more than others. I think particularly in construction and manufacturing and transport are all really struggling with increased costs.
Especially the big fuel. Yeah, if you're using diesel or gas or electricity, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah, and you add some labour shortages, having trouble finding drivers or finding, labour of all sorts. And I think then some of my clients I know who are regional are really struggling because they're trying to find labour in their area, which is even more difficult. Yep. And it all compounds to this. I mean, some clients are saying, well, they're getting orders in that they're not going to be able to fulfil for 3 months, or they're just not able to take on jobs anymore because they don't have the labour or the job's just not economic for them to do it all.
Yep. And I think this is one of the real dilemmas that I'm hearing from a lot of people is, what do we do? At what point do we pass that on?
Yeah.
Like we know, this is because we're in June of 2022, there's been the announcement regarding, wage increases.
Yeah.
So are you, and anecdotal evidence that I'm hearing from a lot of people is that sure that, people are saying inflation is sitting at 5.2% and that's the minimum wage that would be passed through to minimum wage earners.
Yep.
But I'm hearing most of them going, I don't understand what the issue is. I'm already passing on 10 or 15% wage increases to my team to hang on to them.
Yeah.
Because that's a real challenge that they've got. And so they're like, I've got to pick up that additional, plus we're now picking up from 1 July 0.5% in the increase in the superannuation guarantee from 10% to 10.5%.
Yes.
So it's a salary increase into the new financial year plus a super increase. Yep. So I think it's I think that labour component, I don't know whether it comes to a point where there's a real threshold where people go, you know what, I just can't keep paying that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the simple answer to all of that is you increase your own prices, right? Which is what everyone's doing, which is, I think, why the economy is struggling with inflation, because prices are rising and then people are rising, the rising costs, and then that's leading to increasing prices to deal with it and so on. And that inflationary pressure just becomes kind of fixed in the economy. Yep. But I think for any particular business owner, the simple answer is raise your own prices. And I think if you can do that, and it's appropriate, you should. And I think certainly a lot of my clients are reluctant to do that, and I think sometimes unnecessarily reluctant. I think sometimes actually there's not as much resistance from their own clients or customers as they think there will be. They're reluctant. There's a lack of confidence about raising prices. I think people actually, if your costs are up by 20%, then perhaps raising prices by 20% is appropriate, or by some percentage. That's kind of obvious, but there's more specifically, you can look at, maybe only working in the more profitable areas of your business, or focusing on those areas and maybe jettisoning some of the areas that are where the price increases are going to really get you.
I reckon that also can be a real challenge for some businesses because they've been servicing a particular, breadth of the market. So, for instance, and all of a sudden they're saying, well, I'm not going to service, the lower end.
Yeah.
But some of their existing customers may have a bit of the premium or higher end.
Yeah, that's very fair.
They're like, well, I've got to kind of do this. But then the real challenge is that you can't always then just say, well, my, higher priced customers have to carry the burden for our not as profitable customers. But it's like, so this is where this real dilemma. I agree with you when people say, but my customers won't accept the price increase.
Yeah.
Well, this is, I think, part of that challenge if you've got to kind of pass through those cost increases, because there's no point in being in a position that you're in business and going broke.
Or just spinning your wheels. I mean, some of my clients are doing projects just to get them done and making virtually no margin on them. And so, they're just stressing themselves out for no return. I mean, that's
Correct.
that's no sustainable way to the future. Now, maybe if you want to keep a few customers happy in order to get a better job or whatever, there's a long-term plan. But sometimes I think you just do it because you're used to doing it and you don't want to go out of business. And, frankly, if you're not making any profit at all, then why are you in business? You know what I mean?
I agree. And this is where it comes back to, because, you're in business to make a profit, to be able to do the lifestyle issues that you want to kind of deal with. So, you kind of feel, I do think for some people, they feel as though they're, spinning the wheels. It was really interesting. I mean, there's always this issue around, understanding what your cost base is within your own business. Yeah. And working it through. And so for a lot of people, it's a finger in the sky and, look, that sounds about right. Yeah. When you actually ask them to work their way through, okay, you've got to add in this and, there's labour and there's gas and there's, diesel and there's all these other elements and tenancy costs and insurance. You add it all together and you look at your per unit cost, whatever that be, for services or product. Yeah. To then look and go, wow, okay, when I look at it, I'm actually making a 5% margin. I thought I was making, a 30% margin. Right. So therefore, when you start, you go, well, there are certain products you might be making a better margin on, others you won't. So that's where we get a lot of people look at and go, work through what your pricing is and assess it. And then you can, it doesn't have to be down to the one, the cent, but it's been pretty close to know where you're sitting that says, no, I'm actually pretty confident about going to the market with a price increase. Now, if you then lose some customers through that process, well, it's either going to be the unprofitable customer, or if someone leaves, it actually may give you a bit more capacity to deal with the clients that you already have.
Maybe, that's right. Price point. Yeah, maybe. And where are they all going? I mean, if the customers they go to a competitor. Are those competitors are they more efficient than you? Maybe they are. In which case, how do you get more efficient? But or are they just making a loss on those or spinning their wheels? And is that where you want to? Is that the market you want to be in? So if you're losing those customers, that might be all right. I know we've seen quite a few who've raised their prices and not encountered as much resistance as they thought because their competitors are raising their prices as well or charging similar or offering lower quality or whatever it is. There is often a way through it. But
that's a dilemma, isn't it? So I can give you the lower price. Yeah. But you have to accept that there's a lower quality of the product that I'm going to deliver you because I cannot put the premium components into that finished product or the service that's being offered. I can't have my best person on it. I've got to have someone else on it. Yeah. There's got to be a minimum price that goes through because in the end, if I don't make money as a business or any business, then there's no one to service that customer. Yeah. You can have that product, but you're going to have to pick it up. I won't deliver it to you because fuel costs are getting me, Correct. Whatever it is. Yeah. No, I think it's a real dilemma, but I don't know what they are. I mean, I know we're going to see price increases or interest rates go up. Yeah. But as someone we were talking about it this morning kind of made the point that really, even at 6%, the cost of funds is still pretty cheap. Yeah, that's right. But then, oh my God, it's going up. It's, the interest rate's I know, but it was always going to have to go up. And if you're not adjusting the cost of your funding through that process, then, again, this is where you come back into understanding the cost of your business. And in the end, do you narrow your market to meet that? And therefore, you don't have to be pulling your hair out the whole time because you can't get enough people. But if you're getting the premium end, and I do think it's a dilemma when you've got the spread of customers. Yeah, that is true. But you've got to really be commercial about how you do that process because we've had a few customers or clients who've done that and they've said, I can charge X amount of, say, we had an engineering client who charges per hour and said, I'll charge this per hour. And I said, well, hang on, that's fine for you, except that you're also using your own equipment, aren't you? Oh, yeah. But I own my own, factory and testing facility and all that. And you're like, but sure you own them, but they're not free, right? Yeah, correct.
And then you're using all your own equipment. Once you factor in a cost for that, and, then you're charging per hour much, much less than you should be, much less. Correct. And then often that they were doing very high end engineering stuff, designing machines, if you like, which were unique, which were then being used by the end user. They were being then licensed out, and the end user was making a lot of good money from it. And so you think, well, hang on, you're producing a lot of, you take a license fee or something. Maybe you price maybe a per hour rate, but also a license fee, or maybe you increase your per hour, or you charge for the end product. There's a different way of charging that might still make sense. And I think they were kind of, in a way, it came back to a lack of confidence for them and their own skills. This was an older fella who'd been doing it for a million years and really thought that charging more than $100 or $200 an hour was ripping people off. And you go, well, yeah, okay, but if you once you do all the calculations, you're only ripping yourself off and your own family off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now you're not spending time with your wife because you're working more hours than you have to.
Yeah, because you're not getting enough margin in to get you some extra stuff.
Yeah.
Look, I do think that labour cost is going to be the biggest. I mean, I think from a supply chain point of view, certain things will probably settle down once things open up a little bit. But at the same time, you get one of these price increases too. You don't really see it coming down too often. And this is a dilemma a lot of people are saying to hang on to staff. Yeah. I'll pay to a point because it's not going to come down. But there's a point where I go, you know what? If you reckon you can get more elsewhere, great, that's fine. But then you do find some of those people will leave to chase the next dollar.
Yeah.
But then they may either come back because they realise that the culture that you have inside your business is better than where they're going to, but also because they're the highest priced commodity inside the new business, they potentially can also be the first one to be cut.
Yeah, well, we've seen a bit of that. We've had people on quite what I might call a bloated salary, that's gone up, and it'll go up through this period. And I've seen this before when salaries sort of really went up strongly, and then a couple of years later they all get the chop because they just can't justify those salaries anymore because they're not generating that value to the business. They might have given them a big pay rise to keep them at the time they were sort of desperate, and then they sort of actually, I know it happens sometimes in legal, people get promoted as lawyers because they're very technically capable, and then they get on quite high salaries. I'm sure it happens in lots of areas where you're technically capable, but maybe people management and maybe getting your own client base or customer base is not your thing, or you're not very good at it, and you end up on this salary that really can't be justified by your commercial return, and they're better off hiring someone who's less experienced to do the work that you're already doing, you know what I mean, and pay them half as much. And they do that. In law firms, people become sort of special counsel, very senior, and then they might be on, $200,000, and then they get the chop and they hire someone on $100,000 to replace them,
Yeah, so, allow them to grow.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I mean, there's more to a happy employment position than money. You know what I mean? There's a lot of, and I thought people out of COVID would be recognising that more than ever, but it seems like people are certainly chasing the big bucks.
Well, it's interesting though, because I've had a couple of discussions with a few people that are now starting to look at a 9-day fortnight.
Oh yeah,
and they're in professional services.
Yeah, right.
And
with the same pay.
Same pay. So
don't say that. My team will listen to this and they'll be at me for, can I have a day off for nothing? No, you cannot.
But some of them have said, no, it's worked quite well. I mean, they've got to mix the day so there's always coverage inside the business. But they said that it's a real mindset for a lot of people. So, yes, there is a cost involved. Yeah. But there's also the other side of it is that the team are you
going to tell me they're all fresher? They're all feeling better?
Not so much fresher, but they do. Yeah. They utilise that one day to either follow up on their own, personal passion, or it might be they just bulk up all of their private appointments on a 1 day
all
a week.
Yeah, personal stuff.
Personal stuff. Yeah, and it just means that when they're present in the office or working from home, but still working, they know they've still got to hit their targets and they've still got to hit all this other stuff. But if they can get it done in a 9-day fortnight, they're like, how good is this? I still now get an extra. Now, a few of them have said some of them will keep their phones on because it depends on what they're doing. But they might it might be a Friday, they might take 2 phone calls for 20 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
No big deal.
I'm cynical about that. Like I understand the logic, but I kind of going on. Well, what's going to happen is you just work one less day every fortnight, and then you still do whatever, you still do your doctor's appointments whenever you got to do them and take time. Like it just becomes part of your life. I'm not sure that would be the special. You know what I mean? Maybe for the first 6 months or something. Maybe I'm old-fashioned about that, but I kind of think it'd just end up becoming you'd take that day for granted. You know what I mean?
Well, I think part of that then comes back into, like any of your other costs inside your business. So, as we're talking about today, increased costs within business. Yeah. How can you slice and dice the apple a little bit differently? Yeah. Do you take into account the cost of replacing someone?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah.
So it's a really, I just think that shuffling of the deck is really quite interesting about how do you do that? And I think there are a lot of people that are happy to work 4 days a week. Yeah. They don't want to work 5 days. And I think it's also adding to the dilemmas of not being able to find people. Some people said, you know what, I've drawn myself to a point. I've got enough money. I don't want to work 5 days.
Yeah. We're certainly seeing a lot of that. People want to work casually, or they want to work, the school hours, or they want to whatever it is. And maybe COVID's really brought some of that sentiment more to the fore. That people are saying, well, I've got other things in my life that are important to me that I want to, I want to spend time with my family. I want to spend time with my young kids or whatever. And they're recognising that. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. Something I want to say about talking about increased cost in businesses is. That I think you can. There's an upside to all of this. That if there's increased costs in businesses and businesses are struggling as a result of it, then maybe that's an opportunity to take over your competitor. Maybe that's an opportunity to merge. Maybe it's an opportunity to buy another business and tack it on. Like if everyone's feeling similar, I don't think it's not a particular industry thing. Although maybe some industries are worse than others, but generally it's that we're all feeling it. That, whether you're in legal, you're in finance, you're in manufacturing, you're in construction, you're in retail, whatever, they're all feeling it, and it might be a chance for you to expand. If you can see the crisis-opportunity, you can see the crisis and make something of it. And I've certainly seen some of our clients have then been quite aggressive to merge or to purchase their competitor to expand. And maybe the two businesses now are still struggling a little bit, but it's a good time to take over while that business is struggling, and things will recover. You'll get, it'll improve as long as you've got a bit of cash behind you to do that. Then you can take over some of your competitors, have a bigger market share at the end of all of this.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, if you're going to don't let a good crisis get in the way of growth. Yeah. There's opportunities everywhere, and this is where I do think some of it becomes back to the mindset. Yeah, a lot of areas around. Yeah. Am I looking at this as a glass half empty or half full? Yeah. And so yes, costs are increasing. There's no doubt about it, and that's across the board for everyone. But how is that then allowing you to reassess your business and where you could, expand the focus, as you said, through an acquisition or a merger, or it gives you an opportunity to narrow your focus even further to reduce the scope that you may deliver. Yeah, you're bringing it into a tighter scope, so therefore you don't need as many people, or the work that you do can be higher priced. Yeah, for the time that you put in there.
Yeah, and I think some of our clients, I'm saying to them, you got to be a bit ruthless about this. There's some who are saying, I've got to increase my prices by 3%, but my customers won't stand for it. And I say, well, maybe they aren't the customers for you. If 3%, you know what I mean? And this is like, I'm thinking of a logistics company, right? So there's plenty of fuel cost, and there's they're having trouble getting enough drivers. I mean, they just cannot find the drivers to drive the big trucks. And so in that context, a 3% price rise is if I was trying to get my packages delivered and I had to pay 3% more, I'd be pretty happy. But it's a sort of almost a cultural thing. And I think it's an opportunity for, dare I say it, a bit of ruthlessness to say, well, no, we've got to increase our prices or we're just not going to be competitive. And if you go to another trucking company, you're going to have the same problem. So, we've got to get out there and do it, either broaden your focus, narrow your focus, increase your prices, do what you've got to do to make ends meet as a small business person when you've got increased prices that you need to deal with.
But this is also where it comes back to your starting point. What are my costs?
Yeah. I've got to understand what they really are.
Yeah, be really clear around what your costs are and what they may have been from 12 months ago, how much they've increased. Now, I would say most people are across their costs. Yeah. Again, generalisation. But sometimes when it's been a while since you've kind of really broken it down, you kind of step back and go, all right. It's a bit like when you're doing a budget. for your spending. I'm a fan of them. You turn around and you just go, but where's the money going? And you monitor that for 3 months and you go, wow, we're spending a lot more in one area than I thought we were. And to me, it's the same as your cost. You don't sometimes realise how much your average cost of fuel has increased or your gas supply or... if you've got people out in cars and on the road and things like that, motor vehicles and all of those things, how does all that tie together? So
there's always, I know when I do my own budget for work, for Taurus, my law firm, there's always unusual costs. Every month there seems to be some sort of unusual cost that you haven't budgeted for. You know what I mean? You're like, hang on a second. So or whatever it is that month that you go, that doesn't count, that's unusual. Oh, there's another one, doesn't count, unusual. You know what I mean? We don't normally do the work retreat, or we don't normally do, use Ubers like that, or we don't know, whatever it is. We've got to renew some software subscription. There's always costs. I'm with you. I think budgeting's, fairly useless. What you want to do is actually look at where your money's actually going and make some, and then do something about it if there's something to be done. And I know in my area, and I think in a lot of small businesses, it's actually cutting costs is not the main challenge. Often they need to invest more in costs. They actually need to spend more, not cut more costs. They need to spend more so they can expand and be more profitable. And they need to be sometimes generous with their spending to get the to get the best clients or customers, or to have the best quality goods or whatever it is. That cutting costs is not a long-term solution for being a profitable business. There's you've got to keep your costs under control, no question. But sometimes
so reallocation of resources that are available.
I look at it's not my area, but, when I'm dealing with the financials of small businesses, sometimes I'm thinking you're actually not spending enough. You need to hire some more people, not cut some people. And maybe those people will be expensive, but if you believe in what you're doing, then back it,
Correct. And this is a balance. Do you get offload some people but bring in more? So
maybe,
it's that reassessment.
Or outsource.
Look at these options. Correct. Yeah. And that's been highlighted that, from a remote perspective in the last 2 years, if you go right up through the Asian countries, up through that eastern seaboard, all the way up, the time zone can be 1 to 2 hours of either side of Melbourne's time zone. But someone can do a lot of, administrative work at half the cost of what it is and having someone permanently here. So, again, it's looking at understanding your costs inside your business, even though they may be increasing, but do you redeploy the capital elsewhere to give you a better return on that investment? So it's not always a bad side to, with costs increasing, but you've got to pass part of that on, or make sure that the service or product that you're delivering is being priced appropriately and charged at the appropriate price point. All right. So is there anything else you wanted to add before we sort of wind up for today?
No, I suppose I'd just say I feel your pain to all the business owners out there. I know we're feeling it. I think everyone's feeling it. It is frustrating, and I don't think there's any easy answers for anyone. There's not, you can't just sign this contract or take this measure to fix this problem. I think it's a problem for everyone. We're all feeling it. We're all in the same boat in that sense. I guess I'd say that just strong business management tools, strong businesses will survive this and weak businesses won't. And so, being a strong business and taking the steps you need to manage your costs and to manage your pricing and to, narrow or broaden your focus depending what is going to work for you to make your business as strong as it can be. The same is true with COVID. COVID was a challenge that nobody ever expected, that nobody planned for really, or maybe some people did, very few people planned for. And the strong businesses actually came out, some of them even stronger, and the weak businesses fell. So I think you've got to do what you can to make your business as strong as it possibly can be.
And awareness of where your costs are and where the money's going.
Yeah.
All right. Well, once again, Alex, always a pleasure. As we said right from the start, the lawyers are probably the worst about increasing and passing on their costs.
Edith pass it on, mate. If I park my car out the front of your office, I send you the bill. Thanks, Dave. It's always nice to be slagged off at the end of the podcast.
All right. Talk to you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.